was always there to provide a supplementary income earning opportunity to a community that was badly affected by COVID. A lot of our scholars have been with us since the very beginning, and a lot of the promises that I made to them that I really tried to deliver, luckily we were able to keep them. And right now they've learned so much. They understand the technology a lot better, and when they have any questions, and we want to provide opportunities.
Hello everyone, this is Meina, your crypto friend. Today I'm really thrilled to have Brandon Wong as my guest. Brandon Wong is the founder of Avocado Guild. Avocado Guild is one of the largest Web3 gaming guild. It aims to transforming Web2 users into the Web3 space. Let's welcome Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
Hey Meina, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for recording the podcast again with me because of my fall last time. I didn't record our faces.
No worries, pleasure.
Yep. Okay. Then let's get to the point. Can you please introduce yourself as well as Avocado Guild?
Sure thing. Hi everyone, I'm Brendan, co-founder of Avocado Guild. We were the largest gaming guild in 2021. We started in July of last year, and we had a very successful Series A led by America Brands. And what started off as a project for providing opportunities to people in Southeast Asia through the integration of Web3, NFT lending, revenue sharing has now evolved to be a project where we can guide and shape the future of Web3 a little bit. As we see that the space is still growing, we kind of evolved to do our part in investing in the ecosystem, continuing to grow and educate our scholars, as well as help games build better Web3 games. So that's a bit about Avocado Guild and about myself.
That's very cool. Then can you please tell us why did you name Avocado DAO or Avocado Guild? Why is it avocado?
Avocado. So to be honest, no real particular reason. Just thought avocado was pretty cool. But in general, avocados are a little bit of a industry disruptor. I like eating avocados. I used to sell avocados. There's no real answer for that one. It's just we settled on Avocado Guild.
What is the next trend for Web3 gaming? Do you think it will be like play to earn, play and earn, or something else? There have been lots of ongoing discussions about the next trends, and I want to hear from your expert perspective.
Next trend for Web3 gaming. I don't think it's really as much about play and earn, or win and earn. I think these are coins. These are terms coined and made popular by Axie Infinity and YGG at the beginning when Web3 gaming was put on the map. I think for the future, what we're going to expect is different genres of games coming out. Like, we've seen games like Steppin', and recently I heard of one called Sleepin'. And, it's interesting because once you understand what Web3, like how the blockchain can be integrated into games, the technology really allows for people to have a deeper engagement with the ownership of the digital assets. And with that, if the technology is used properly as an ingredient when it comes to building a game, I think it's possible that we're going to see a brand new kind of like a sector of gaming, different to very competitive desktop and console gaming versus super casual mobile gaming. We might see something that will work its way towards a future where your NFTs can be interoperable and used in many different ecosystems. So I think Web3 gaming provides the right tools to allow for something like that to happen. In terms of really like what trends there are, the trends keep, like something goes in the trend and then it goes out of trend. But in the end of the day, I think it's important that we understand the technology is here to allow for something that wasn't possible before.
So you mentioned Step In or Sleep In. Are you also a user or a gamer for those games?
No, actually, the only move to earn game that I kind of play is actually just Geno Pets. That's the only one. Yeah.
Is it because you don't have time, or you just don't want to try those things?
Well, I can't exactly say I don't have time to walk or don't have time to sleep. But it just, I never really got into it. Generally quite busy. But during the last trip to Consensus in Austin, I met up with Jay from Geno Pets. We're good friends, and at the time he showed me how it works, and their game is currently getting ready for launch. So we got teammates in Avocado DAO that are currently testing it out and looking at the game as well.
Interesting. I might look it up after this
Pretty
podcast
cute.
too.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
Okay. And you said there will be, or you are anticipating a lot of new changes, especially like how the usage or the utility of NFTs in the gaming.
I think 2021 was the year where Axie Infinity really broke ground by releasing to mass market the breeding function of NFTs, the earning function of NFTs through their game, and really raised a lot of awareness for what Web3 games could be. Unfortunately, with the performance of the market and the evolution of these Web3 games, people view that as kind of like the first generation of Web3 games. What I expect is the newer generation games to come out with better tokenomics and mechanics that govern how the NFTs behave, as different infrastructure builders and other projects try to integrate the interoperability of many NFTs across multiple ecosystems and metaverses. I think we're going to be able to see in perhaps the near future games that have different mechanics that perhaps is more sustainable, and at the same time NFTs that have more utility as opposed to the limitations of what we see right now within one game. However, having all of this said, like, development takes time. New token standards may have to be designed, and a lot of the mid-layer infrastructure builders will perhaps have a lot of integrating to do. But it's interesting to see right now that there are a lot of game developers coming out in this space. A lot of these guys come from traditional Web 2, large ships, large corporations. At the same time, there's a lot of indie game developers coming in, and Web3 natives turning to game developers, even some minor bankers turning into game developers. So when all of these guys get together and innovate the space, I think it'll be very interesting to see what type of product that will be released once we understand the underlying technology that's going to be embedded into these games.
Got it. So since you mentioned there are currently a lot of Web 2 companies trying to enter the Web 3 gaming industry, right? For example, based on my research, Nintendo, they have reviewed its interesting approach to Metaverse during its financial result brief in February 2022. Epic Games secured a $1 billion USD funding for the Metaverse project last year with some solid financial backing from Sony. What is your view on those transitions?
I think it's really great for the industry to have some of the giants in the traditional space take a look and think, you know what, this could be the future. We are going to divert and allocate some resources to the development of games within the space, or understanding this industry as a whole. However, I do feel that sometimes with the larger ships, they can be a little slower when they pivot and try to understand certain concepts of decentralization when it comes to gaming. So there are still definitely opportunities for game developers in Web3 gaming to come up with something that's absolutely unique. I feel that the final product of a successful game in Web3 may not necessarily, like, historically, it's when a new market comes up, it may follow some concepts of previous successful formulas, but at the same time, because of the opportunities here where a game can be multi-chain, where a game can have an NFT that you own, I feel that the development of a game might help create a new genre of gaming, like a new sector of gaming. So with these new guys coming in, I think it might take them a tiny little bit of time to really understand the cycles, understand, how crypto affects gaming in general, and then working out good tokenomics and economic models that can support a game sustainably in the long term.
So do you think they have like some kind of competitive advantage comparing to those Web3 companies? I'm referring to those very large Web2 gaming companies.
Yeah. I definitely think they have huge advantages. They've got capital, they've got experience, they've got really large teams. For example, a game like World of Warcraft, it can't be developed by like 6 or 10 developers. They've got big teams developing games like that, from artists to balancing to absolutely everything. But having that said, it's not to say that they don't have their disadvantages as well. Like being a larger organization, they can be a little slower when it comes to pivoting. So Web3 guys also understand perhaps the technology, and if they were here through 2021, they'll understand how Axie behaved, how some of the other games behaved, and all of that is very valuable experience that can help shape the next generation of games to be developed as well. So even though they have clear-cut advantages, I think there's still a lot that can be learned when you understand how infinite the space is as a whole.
I definitely agree with you. I think there will be something disruptive that will appear not only in the NFT space but also in the gaming space. In those kind of cases, history might be a good teacher, but it will never show you, or we will never be able to use history to forecast what will be happening in the future.
Correct.
But still, I want to hear your view about like what the future of Metaverse will be.
You see, Metaverse was a term that was made very popular in 2021. But I'm a gamer, so I've been playing games for, I don't know, over 20 years of my life. And for me, a Metaverse was never foreign. Like every time I played a game, I felt as though I escaped to a metaverse. So, any game can be a metaverse. Essentially, I think a metaverse is a community of people, is a place that allows a community of people to get together and engage with each other. That itself is a metaverse. So, for example, World of Warcraft is a metaverse. Discord is a metaverse. Like any time, like even Call of Duty in my mind would be a metaverse. It's an escape from reality. It's kind of like an imaginary reality, a sub-reality in a way. But the different metaverses give you different engagement levels, if that makes sense. In Discord, you can only speak to your community. You can only type, and perhaps you can send a couple of emojis. In World of Warcraft, you have weapons, avatar, you can run, you can use Discord to talk. Like it has more engagement. But with the integration of Web3 into the metaverse, I think we're going to see something a little cooler than that, which is essentially you being able to bring your assets across different ecosystems from one game to another game to another game, similar to Ready Player One, although it would take a little bit of time to get to that stage. And at the same time, it's really understanding that these items that you hold are yours and they belong to you. You can lend them out, you can sell them, you can do whatever you want with them. And understanding that particular technology should allow you to have a unique set of engagement within these different metaverses. And we need to understand that right now there's so many games that are encouraging like creator economy as well. So, imagine the creator economy with the integration of Web3, similar to like sandboxes, being able to create your own unique items that are yours, that you can sell, that you can rent, that you can do anything you want with. I think that's very cool.
Is it fair to say that you think the potential collaboration between metaverses and the potential possibility of moving items or utilizing the items from one metaverse to another metaverse might be a trend? So then that leads to the question, the collaboration, or to the fact that the collaboration between those different metaverses might become very important in the future?
I think I think it's a popular request that everyone has. Like if you look at, if you watch Meta's like version of the Metaverse, if you watch Ready Player One, it's always the interoperability of many of these NFTs across the different systems, the different servers. I think it will be relatively important, but I don't think that will be the only function. I think it'll be one of many utilities as the gaming space, as the Web3 gaming space evolves. I think that will be one utility that everyone will be looking forward to, the interoperability of the NFTs. But I don't think that will be the only one.
Got it. And also, I think to achieve that, it actually requires a lot of integrations and collaboration. And even like I feel like when two projects or two companies, when they announce a partnership, the essential actual partnership, what it entitles, is always different from what the user were expecting.
I agree. But everything needs to start somewhere. So until we get to a stage where people can kind of get what they want, you need innovators to be imaginative, to be willing to strike up these partnerships, to get the building blocks ready, so that eventually when they build slowly towards that goal, you need to have a goal in mind, but perhaps you can't get there straight away. So I think these partnerships are very important, not just between games and guilds, games and games, games and IP, but also many of the infrastructure layer. Even the way that the NFTs behave right now and the standards that we have, like ERC 721, I think many of these can be improved upon. And in the next couple of years, I'll be expecting different standards, NFTs to behave in different ways. And like 2021 was really a really huge catalyst for Web3 gaming. It really pushed it into the spotlight. But at the same time, the level of games that was offered wasn't of the highest level, and really the economics behind these games were not designed properly. Instead of focusing on some areas of these games that didn't work out well, we should be focusing on the learnings that we can get from these guys that were brave enough to innovate at the very beginning. And therefore, with this knowledge, we should be able to build things that are a lot better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that perspective. No, and also nothing can ever be perfect from that sense, because everything is always being improved by someone or by some companies. But I think everyone would admit the fact that the games that exist in the Web3 space right now is not very playable in a lot of way. Let's all look forward to a bright future for the Web3 gaming. And then you just mentioned about the revolution or the improvement in terms of the NFT standards or the NFT definitions. Do you think Web3 gaming will be a strong force, or will be the major force for the revolution of NFTs? Or do you think the revolution will actually come from other sectors?
Yeah, I actually think Web3 will be. I think Web3 gaming will be a huge driver for the need for different and new ERC token standards to come out. And at the same time, as you were saying before, like the games right now, they're playable, although not as enjoyable. Like even though the earnings for Axie Infinity and many of the other games have gone down drastically, within the guild, like you would expect that, for example, all of your scholars are there for the profit split. But even though the earnings have dropped down significantly, there are users that will come on and play every single day. So to some people, they are enjoyable, but I guess like they can be made a lot better. So to cater for the mass market, the enjoyability portion can really go up a lot more. And then obviously it's not just enjoyability, there's also the accessibility when it comes to games in Web3. It's not as simple as going Google Store and just purchasing a game and that's it. Your mom's credit card paid for it, and you can play your game. But Web3, you got to pick, like, at the moment, you got to figure out how do you operate a MetaMask? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then there's a lot of layers of friction. I expect all of these to improve as well. So anyways, back to your question about the token standards. I do believe some of the game developments right now, if they want to be more on-chain, they're limited by the token standards. But over time, they'll develop different token standards that help the items behave a little differently, I guess.
So since you mentioned the accessibility for Web3 gaming is still pretty poor because of the entry of barriers to Web3 gaming, is Avocado Guild doing different efforts, or what kind of efforts are you guys trying to help users to onboard those users from Web2 to Web3?
Ever since the beginning, when Avocado Guild launched last year, July, ever since we got our first bunch of scholars, we've always encouraged our scholars to refer people that they know in like their own neighboring communities, like real people. We found that if you're able to empower the community on the floor, and you get them to tell their friends about something exciting, it's like that real word of mouth is really powerful. And at the same time, we've always aligned ourselves with what we're trying to do with our community, and it was always there to provide a supplementary income earning opportunity to a community that was badly affected by COVID. And not only was it badly affected by COVID, but just at that right time, Web3 gaming was a hit. And we really wanted to provide as much as we could so that these guys could not only earn a supplementary income, but have exposure to this technology. And very early on, we found that the education around wallet security, the understanding of Web3 was quite low. So we came up with initiatives, both online and offline, to educate the scholars, teaching them the importance of securing your digital assets, how you do it, and what it really means to own a token. So, for example, to a standard scholar, the owning of a token could mean I just send it off to an exchange and I off-ramp that into fiat. Or really understanding that when I have a token, like the volatility and freedom that I have in the space is I can literally go into all the different chains. I can swap this token for any other token. And in a way, not financial advice, but that gives me the option to invest in projects that I like, to invest essentially in things that they believe in, and that itself is something that they perhaps didn't really have the opportunity to do where they normally come from because of the regulations, because of all the friction. Like, you understand, in Philippines and Indonesia, there are many different islands. A lot of these guys don't even have access to like proper good banking, and nowadays with crypto, they now have access to the functionalities of a bank, without having access to a bank. The transferring of digital assets, of tokens, is very easy, and they can earn this just from enjoying a game that they're playing with their friends. So our job is not just to provide the NFT rental portion, but really to make sure that they navigate the space responsibly. And that's why, if you look, even in my background, Avocado is depicted as kind of like a little bit of a spaceship. This is like a version 1, but a little bit of a spaceship because we want to protect our community as we navigate the space.
I didn't even realize that is an avocado. Oh, that's an avocado spaceship? That's amazing.
That's an avocado spaceship, yeah.
That's amazing.
There's a different one on our Twitter as well, and that's also an avocado spaceship.
Maybe you should make it the background that you're actually sitting in the avocado spaceship. Like...
Yeah, maybe.
I think that would be a very good advertisement. And then every single scholar from the Avocado Guild, they can have their own like avocado spaceship. Maybe as NFTs. And then I have a number on the avocado spaceship.
I'll share this with you.
And what about the game token and NFT investments? How are you guys
Yep.
deciding what game token or NFTs to invest in right now?
Yep. Well, right now, once again, due to the market conditions, we've held back on a lot of our investments. We're waiting for many of the, like, we look for games where the founders have a lot of strong conviction and experience in building good games, and really understand the current issues that the Web3 games face. So we look for guys that are, we look for founders that are good at pivoting, good understanding of the landscape, ideally with track record as well. And we obviously assess the team, the idea, and we look very closely at the tokenomics. There's a whole bunch of like really quite standard investment parameters that we look for. But at the end of the day, when you invest in Web3 at its current stage, you're really hoping that the person that you're speaking to has the resilience to tackle such a problem. So we also give priority to a lot of games that have different genres that are very different to what we've seen. Like we've seen a couple that appear to be like Axie spin-offs and things like that. For games like those, we're generally not as bullish on as well.
So you're basically saying right now it's still your core team members who are trying to do the research and decide on the investments. Do you plan to?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Yeah, correct. Right now, we do plan to build out the proper DAO functionalities in future so that the community can govern our investment decisions. However, with how quick the space is moving, sometimes it's very difficult and the window of opportunity closes fairly quickly as well. So we feel that the core team who spends all of their time managing the operations of scholarships, listening to all the different pitches and understanding the games, reading all of the details, we're better armed to make a good choice when it comes to investing in different games that are coming out on all these different chains. So for now, we are trying to guide it the best way forward that we know how. But in future, we do plan to pass on much more governance control back to the community so that they can have transparency and options to understand which might be the best way forward for Avocado DAO.
As a guild or a DAO founder, what's your own take on how much power should the community have in terms of governing the project, the DAO, the guild? Because obviously when you start a project or when you found a project, the founder always try to hire a team of experts to manage the project. But essentially what we are promoting in the Web3 space is we want to delegate the responsibility or the capability more to the community. So how do you balance that out?
I think that's a really, really good question. So in future, we would like to have the standard governance proposal mechanisms in place and probably shorter windows for people with stake tokens to be able to cast their voting rights. There would just be a lot of transparency really would be expected from the DAO to provide to the community so the community can can give their input. It's basically a forum where the community's voices can be heard a lot stronger than in the traditional world, where if you wanted to tell Call of Duty how to build a game, like I don't think much is going to happen. But in our case, once we build it out, because Web3 is so strongly focused on community, their opinions will definitely matter, and the team will go through everything. I mean, once we get to that stage, that's what I would hope to achieve. The guild, the DAO itself still has the operational aspect, and even investing requires, like you mentioned, personnels with like the correct experience. And it's not so much that we'll give all of the rights will still be held by token holders, and it's not like we're going to get them to decide, do we invest in this one? But we get to present the information, and they get to basically go through everything and raise their own concerns as well. So that's what we expect to build towards in the end.
Maybe just start by providing more transparency and information.
Correct.
To the total holders.
So it starts off by providing more transparency, treasury reports and things like that, and then we slowly work towards that one. But more importantly, we need to have a strong business model that's sustainable as well. Otherwise, the treasury will keep dwindling. Yeah.
So, what is the current plan on building a strong structure for sustainability for Avocado DAO?
I feel that in like just 4 or 5 months, like just 4 months ago, the market was performing much better. And within 4 months, we've seen steep drops across all altcoins and ETH and BTC. I feel that the market really hasn't quite settled down yet. So for us, we have a couple of plans, short-term and long-term in the pipeline. I can't share too much of it, but most of it is, on our white paper anyways, to be honest.
Yep.
And we want to wait until the market itself settles down a little bit more before we kind of like pursue anything major. I think it's important. I think it's important. Like, it's important to be building, but it's also really important to be aware of the landscape. So even when it comes to the investment portion, I think it makes sense for us to hold back a little bit now, while we wait for everything to settle down, and the more resilient projects will then stand out, and we can then reassess and go back on track. When it comes to building, it's really important to kind of sit down and understand what is the space lacking. The space is lacking users, it's lacking education, and it's also lacking a lot of mechanics at the game level. So these are the areas that we'll be focusing on when coming up with products and providing guidance to players in the industry.
Because you are acting as the founder of a guild, so meaning like you are essentially responsible for a lot of the users and the scholars that you are interacting or you are representing. So does that mean when you think about, or when the team create those specific strategies, in terms of the current like economic condition, you guys will be more risk averse than other teams?
Yes, we do tend to be a little bit more risk adverse. And at Avocado DAO, ever since the beginning, it was always community first, just like in Web3. So we do look after our community. We do try and have incentives for them. We try and, we've restarted our offline events. So hopefully this month we'll have an event as well. I think it's important to maintain that community and support. And as a guild, we don't just lend NFTs for the purpose of yield farming, but we also want to be able to enrich their lives, educate them, and provide opportunities. So everything we build, we try to be able to integrate all of this together. Like for us, what's valuable is the data. For them, what's valuable is the opportunity. And we want to integrate both of these.
Yeah. I think if I'm your scholar, I would truly appreciate that perspective, the education perspective.
If you would like to have a chat with our scholars one day, I can sync you up with like a couple and you can have a chat with them. You can ask them all sorts of questions.
Yes,
that's up to you.
I think let's totally do that. I would love to maybe do like a panel talk with
our scholars,
and maybe you should find like different personalities or different kind of users so we can talk about it from different perspectives.
Perhaps, yeah, we can arrange that. Like a lot of our scholars have been with us since the very beginning, and a lot of the promises that I made to them that I really tried to deliver, luckily we were able to keep them. And right now they've learned so much. They understand technology a lot better, and when they have any questions, they literally direct ping me as well. So we try to be there for them.
That's great. A supportive founder. Supportive.
Yeah, I have to be.
Yeah. And let's go back a little bit to the information transparency. What I want to point out is I read your treasury report. I also check out your website as well as your newsletters. I think it's really cool. So I definitely encourage everyone who is listening to this podcast to check out Avocado DAO's newsletters. Like you can actually flip through the different pages. It's totally well designed, aesthetically cool. Do you have anything you want to add on?
Just want to thank you for doing your homework, and the newsletter is something that we are super proud of. We release one every month. It's written by the community for the community. But lately we've been trying to make it more overall coverage. So it covers not just the community, but Avocado DAO's movement forward. What's our planning? What's on our mind? We try to cover everything, and even general what's happening in Web3 as well. So that, along with our treasury reports, will aim to improve every single month. But it's to allow people that are interested to have a glimpse of what's happening within the guild and understand that whatever it is Avocado DAO is doing, it's not just what people look at for the token, it's also the people internally that it affects. Like, these are real people, and they're really trying to, they're like, these opportunities really benefit them. And at the same time, so does the learning. And they're able then to go and teach other people as well.
So when you plan, or when you guys create those newsletters, you said it's the voice from the community. So does the internal team create a general outline for the newsletter, and then the community will fill out the content, or how is the overall creation process? Meaning, like, how do you decide what kind of knowledge you want to promote on the newsletters?
It's actually a team effort. So definitely there are internal team members within the group, but we speak with them, and we all get to review the final product, and they structure it all together. Like, it's not like one person says ABC. It's really they get together and go, this would be a great idea, let's include that. This would be a great idea, let's include this. So it is a joint effort. Yeah. Because they want to write the stuff that they want to read as well.
Do you personally write any comments within the specific
newsletters? Yeah. So one thing that we're implementing for the new newsletter is 1 or 2 comments from the internal team every single month. So for the first couple of editions, I've been adding my comments, but over time you'll see different team members add their comments as well. So it's a very minor thing, but I think it's very important.
In addition to those like online promotions or the online communities efforts, are you guys doing any in-person, offline activities to educate?
Yeah, we do. So in the past, in 2021, we used to host really, really large offline events. Like, we'll work with local council to secure like proper assembly halls, and then we would have 20 plus scholars managing everything. We'd buy rice, we'd buy like a lorry of chickens, eggs, milk, seriously everything. We do the packages together, and then we'll give it out to our scholars, and then we'll also even play games. All of these videos are on YouTube, and the purpose of all of these things is really to give back to the community and to help them understand that, we're here to help you. And obviously there's priority given to those with families and things like that. So we've done a couple of these events. We've also done other events where we run educational seminars within schools and do some school, like paper, pencils, and all that kind of giveaways as well.
Very charitable. And then I think it's super nice or super meaningful for you guys to host those offline, on-site events. Those are truly like meaningful to the society, and I do think a lot of or more Web3 companies should be doing that instead of partying around the world.
Yeah, we haven't partied. We haven't partied.
Has Avocado DAO hosted any parties for the scholars? No.
For the scholars, no. The only events we've hosted for the scholars are really like disaster relief events. We've only done disaster relief events and partnered up with a couple of local schools to do Web3 education. So our seminars is not just giving away the free stuff. We have our own scholars of different regions, present them with a seminar basically for Web3, what it allows, how does it work, and then we'll always finish up with what Avocado Guild does and what we hope to achieve. So, yeah.
Now, since we already talked a lot about the efforts that you have spending on building the Avocado community, And what are the key characteristics that you really focus on when you build the avocado community?
Key characteristics when building avocado community. Engagement. So we want community members that are engaged. We want to have alignment with them. We want to let them know, what we do and what position they kind of come in as. And we want to provide opportunities. So these are generally what we focus on. And we try to ensure that those that contribute more will be rewarded better than those that contribute less, but all of them are welcome in the community as well.
And how are you measuring the contribution across different?
Well, that's part of what we developed, the Scholar Portal. The Scholar Portal, which is kind of like our platform, one module of it, that will help us measure their participation across Discord, across the games, and we'll be able to track and assess what level of scholar they are. But generally, they're very, very active contributors. We already know because they raise a lot of questions to us. They're generally like quite outspoken by nature. Yeah, but this will help us track a lot more.
I see. Is the Scholar Portal dashboard live right now?
It went live, I think 2 days ago, but it's just internal live for testing purposes. I think there's still quite a couple of things we need to iron out. So because we try to work with a couple of games as well.
Oh, interesting. Maybe.
Yeah, no, just for APIs.
Oh, got it. I was like, oh, yeah.
No, it's not that stage yet.
Got it. Yeah, I will be looking forward to the updates on the scholarship dashboard, because I think a lot of people are really looking forward to that and expecting a big change to the Avocado Guild.
Okay. Yeah.
And then recently, Avocado DAO has announced many different partnerships with Gamifi and NFT projects. For example, the partnership with Cross the Age, an award-winning digital trading card game, and the partnership with Magic Eden, the leading NFT marketplace on Solana. What are the most essential benefits for Avocado DAO when partnering with those projects?
When we partner with these projects, we're able to leverage off each other's communities. For example, let's just say Magic Eden, right? Any great promising projects coming up on Magic Eden, they can provide us access to these projects, and at the same time, we can provide them access to very early stage projects that are perhaps still deciding on which chain they'd like to build on or where they'd like to list their NFTs. But other than things like this, we can consider integration of a Magic Eden marketplace for Avocado DAO on our website, or perhaps if we release an NFT line, it's really opening the doorway to discussing all the possibilities of a collaboration. And we've crossed the ages. Traditionally, the collectible, people collected watches, Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff. And the way that Cross the Ages was approaching this, they really fundamentally understood the concept and idea around collectible assets, and they themselves are collectors. So when I try to assess how they were building their game, understand what they were trying to do, it was just super intriguing, and the project was extremely promising.
Then should I say a lot of those partnerships actually what you guys provide to them, or what they provide to them, is the information, the advantage of knowing things in advance, or having access to valuable informations.
So what do you mean?
Meaning, you just said you may have a lot of access to early stage projects, so that you can connect, for example, with Magic Eden, right? When they try to pick which chain they want to deploy it on. And on the other side, let's say Magic Eden, they also have a lot of great projects, which they can provide you more insights into that, plus their NFT transaction data.
Look, the details, the actual details of the partnership, I can't go into too much. You're gonna have to use a little bit of your imagination. But basically, the purpose of the partnership is for us to look for collab opportunities where we can support each other and help build out the space together. As a guild, a marketplace, games, I think these are these are entities that can work very closely together in the future.
The reason why I'm asking the details is more for the purpose of the audience, because there are tons of partnerships announcement happening every day for the Web3 space. And I guess like even if you cannot disclose the actual details, but how can an average user or audience to decide or evaluate whether that partnership is valuable or is actually going to be creating something?
Okay, I understand. So yes, there are many partnerships that are happening, but understand that a partnership announcement is just one step of a part of anything really. It can develop into something like a full-fledged partnership, or it can just stay there. Like the thing is, at least it's basically to tell everyone the conversations have started and that we're very positive and we're very open to working together. But the details of how we will work together, that will come in time. It will depend on market, it will depend on product, it will depend on what they need from us, what we may want from them. And it's an ongoing process. So, it's nice for people to want to think, for example, Magic Eden, Avocado, bang, like right on Avocado's website or Magic Eden's website. But there's many stages until like people get to that.
Yeah.
It just shows that right now we're talking and it's very good and we're looking at opportunities. That's really as much as I can say. Even if we were talking more about like little items and what we're discussing, like those would be quite confidential and I wouldn't be able to talk about those.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's still very useful to see your insights in terms of those partnership announcements. And I would encourage my audience to always look at the announcements that with a lot of details. A lot of people actually are saying that Gamify is going to be dead in the future. What are your takes on that?
My take on this is Gamify. I assume you mean Web3 gaming. Look, it's something relatively new. And actually, like, CryptoKitties and all that, they were around, I think, a couple of years ago. But Axie Infinity was really what brought this concept to the mainstream attention. And the economics behind a lot of the earlier Web3 games was quite rudimentary, and many of them proved that it didn't work out well. But that doesn't mean that GameFi is dead. GameFi is the integration of, I guess, DeFi and games, tokenized economies into gaming. It's a new concept, integrating Web3 as a technology into how games would interact with the different items, the characters, and having ownership of these items. I think it really opens a doorway to a lot of possibilities. I think the stage that it is right now isn't mature, but I don't think it's dead. I think people are now aware of what can be done, and it will be a matter of time until, like any other new technology, this develops to a point that's more sustainable, that has better utility and functionality, and eventually it's something that we're going to see as like a new sector of gaming, something different to what people are experienced with. Over time, I think it will actually gain adoption. It's like saying, when it's like at the very beginning when emails came out, people were like, well, why do I need emails? I can send a letter, I can just call someone. But then over time, the new generation that grew up with emails was like, I can't imagine when emails didn't exist. And it makes life so much easier. I think GameFi will be something very similar. Same with Web3, the technology.
So as a founder of the Avocado Guild, do you have any words for the people or for our audience? Like encouragement?
In words of encouragement for the audience, well, I hope everyone gets a little bit more of an understanding on what Avocado DAO really is. So please take a look at our website and be sure to check out our newsletter, which I think is really, really cool, written by the community, for the community. Other than all this, like, the area that we're tackling is extremely exciting. Last year was a really good bull run. And right now, as the markets aren't doing as well, I think people should still understand and keep in mind the reasons that they believed in the space. It's because of the opportunities in this very infant market. What could be developed? What is the future of GameFi? Like, there's version 1 of crypto Web3 games. What will version 2 and version 3 and version 4 look like? Perhaps before it gets to a stage that's Ready Player One. But in order for us to get there, we need to be willing to build, We need to have resilience and be able to sustain during a bear market. And over time, when this, cycles will do what cycles do. But if we plan properly and we act responsibly, I think, we can really help develop this space that I believe will be here to last.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. That's really helpful for the audience, and I really hope that Avocado DAO as well as Web3 gaming will grow together exponentially.
So do we. Other than just managing a large community of scholars and supporters, we also do a lot in trying to help new games navigate the space by providing transparency and clarity on the landscape. Like you said, a lot of the larger games come into the space and they want to understand what Web3 games what Web3 games are currently like and what can be done to improve. We provide our insight a lot of the time on what we've learnt. And we provide our data as well, and game testers and opinions from our scholars and all sorts.
But anyways, I think that's good. That's good content. Let's do an ending. Let's do an ending. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for coming to my podcast today. I really appreciate it, Brandon.
Thank you so much, Meina, for having me. And thank you for everyone that's listening.
Bye.
Bye.